This is Josh Bycer from GameWisdom.com. I hope you enjoyed this Critical Thought, your daily discussion on game design. Hello and welcome to today's Critical Thought. Before we begin, thank you to 798 subscribers here on YouTube. We are really getting close to the 800 milestone and another Let's Play vote. If you've been enjoying the content, be sure to subscribe to the channel and of course share with your friends. Today's Critical Thought is going to be a little bit muted, I think, compared to other ones. I woke up with a nasty migraine, and as a not-so-fun fact, migraines are my one big Achilles heel. When I get hit by one, basically the rest of the day is shot. I'm feeling about 80% better, but I'm still a little bit dizzy and tired. But the show must go on. And today's topic is one that I actually had to double check to make sure that I didn't already make a critical thought on, and that is the concept of false choices in game design. A false choice is a common designer trap, and it's what happens when there's an option in a game that is either so weak that no one wants to ever use it, or we have an option that's so good that you'd be foolish not to take it. And I know those two extremes sound a little weird, but they are important points to talk about. We'll start with the weaker of the two. As you know, a major part of game design is figuring out the choices or the options you want to give to the player. As a famous example, of course, is the Sid Meier quote about a game being a series of interesting choices. And you would think as a game designer that you want to give players a lot of choices. But for every choice you add, it has to be balanced with everything else in your game. And when you don't do that, you can create false choices. For instance, let's say we're playing a RPG where I can choose between fire magic or ice magic. And every enemy takes extra damage from fire, everyone else resists ice. So the question is, why would you ever choose ice instead of fire? Now, we can of course talk about things from a lore perspective, but we want to focus on things from a mechanic point of view for this critical thought, and the answer is obvious. You wouldn't. And for every time, as designers keep adding in more and more choices, you always run the risks of certain choices falling by the wayside. Now, one thing to keep in mind when we talk about false choices is that as long as a choice has some measurement of utility or purpose, then it's not considered a false choice. For instance, in the Mega Man series, of course you're not going to like or use every one of your sub-weapons at every time. A few of them do rise up above the rest. Like I think it was, I want to say Blade Man? I honestly don't remember the boss's name from Mega Man 2 with the buzzsaws, which turned out to be the ultimate weapon for that game. But you would still use the other sub-weapons for their specific boss fights, so they did retain their utility. Utility being the optimal word here. You want your choices to have some kind of purpose to their game. With that said, you don't want purpose to be too specific. As in, this weapon can only be used against one boss at one time, and if you don't have it, you're screwed. As you can obviously tell, that can raise some problems. And we saw this in some extent to the recent Paper Mario RPGs, Sticker Star Saga, and from what I'm hearing, the latest one, which I think it's called Color Splash. What they did is, all the bosses in Sticker Star Saga were ridiculously difficult. They had a lot higher health, they did more damage, and they were just nasty enemies to fight, especially since Mario was always by himself. But if you use the correct sticker, which is like some kind of, you get like these super stickers on the respective boss fight, it renders the boss completely easy and sometimes just kills them outright. The game never clues you in on what they are or when to use them, but that's a critical thought for another time. Now, when it comes to RPG design, as we said, avoiding false choices is very difficult. Final Fantasy as a series is infamous for filling their games with false choices. The problem is you have all these status debuffs or status causing skills in the game, but you can't use them on regular enemies because you'll kill them too quickly, and all the bosses are either immune or resist them to a point that it's just not worth using. This is why I've greatly enjoyed the Shin Megami Tensei games whose status effects are given their proper use, whether it's weakening enemies in normal fights or using them to kill them quickly, such as instant death skills, or the fact that you can debuff bosses. And when I did that in Persona 4, that was just a great feeling to be able to weaken bosses, and it helped me beat the game. I think I beat the game all the way, too, with that. But to avoid false choices, at least in the weaker side of things, you always want to give a choice, again, some kind of utility, some reason why the player should use this. If you don't have that, then either remove the choice or change it. This is one of those cases where less can be more. You don't want 100 choices and only 50 of them actually being of use. Now, on the flip side, let's talk about when a choice is too good. And I know this sounds weird, especially for gamers and consumers watching this. You're probably going, well, the choice is so great, why wouldn't I want it in my game? Well, the problem is when it's so good that you can't think of a reason not to get it. It's like being asked, do you want a punch in the face and a kick in the groin, or would you like a free ice cream sundae and a suitcase full of $100 bills? What would you choose? When a false choice happens in the positive side, it's when options are so good that they don't present a negative. It's something that you're either going to take or you're going to handicap yourself otherwise. Payday 2 has definitely been struggling with that, even before the recent updates with Mayhem and One Down. In the original form of Payday 2, there were some skills that were pretty much, you were taking them no matter what. Originally, the only way you could stealth effectively was to have a skill that reduced the sound that you made when you kill an enemy. So even if your gun was silenced and you shoot them, it would still cause everyone to hear that around you. There's also another skill that it would allow you to answer multiple pagers. If you didn't get that, you were again useless in stealth. So these two skills became the false choice on a positive end. If you were going to play a stealth mission, you were forced to take these. And when a skill is so good that you're required to have it, it's not a choice anymore. And recently with One Down and Mayhem, we've been seeing more issues on the power scale end of things. There are skills in Payday 2 that, quite frankly, just give you bonuses to your damage. In the stealth tree, there's certainly been debates regarding there's a skill that you get that literally just gives you a flat damage bonus for having your gun silenced. And when you max this skill out, your gun will do more damage silence than it would have done with a loud mod on it. Now, defenders will say that the player has to sink a lot of points into that. But the critics say that this is literally a good thing. It's always good. Why would you not want to have more damage? And this is where the positive side of the false choice comes into play. When choices have already been made for you by the nature of the design. When I talked about balancing difficulty and mentioning the Payday 2 One Down example, I brought this up there. On One Down, you have to take certain skills to even stand a chance. If no one in your party has Inspired Ace, you are screwed. And the problem is it reduces your choices down to a few set builds. Now recently Overkill did change things to give you more of a headshot multiplier to try and compensate for the enemy's high damage. At this point I haven't had enough time to really experiment with it to say whether yay or nay that it's making it better. But again, if all your choices are limited and you only can take a few that will basically allow you to stand a chance, then it's not really a choice. And like I said, Payday 2 has definitely been struggling with this pretty much for the last few years, with giving the player all these different options, but then saying, well, if you want to play at the higher difficulties, you need to do X, Y, and Z. Now, avoiding things on the positive end is very tricky to do. It's even harder than with a negative false choice. The reason is you're kind of left in a catch-22. If you take this choice that's very powerful and nerf it, then you could possibly make that choice a negative example. You can make it so bad that no one wants to use it. On the other hand, if you leave it like this and you try to boost your other skills up, you could intentionally or unintentionally break your game's difficulty. If everything works, then where is the challenge? And as a good coincidence, Payday 2 has also suffered with that. After they rebalanced the perk decks and the skills, the game got a lot easier, even on the final difficulty at the time of Death Wish. People were actually having an easier time with that. And again, it's not an easy thing to win. Either something has to always be good, or something always has to be bad. And again, this is where you really need to sit down with your game's design, especially have talks with your testers and the rest of the people in your team to see just exactly where do you want things to go. This again goes back to a previous topic with talking about a baseline experience. You want to have something that measures, exactly where you want the player to be skill-wise for any given moment. And then you can extrapolate that out to either make it harder or easier depending upon your difficulty settings. As we talked about before, if you just make things so hard that it reduces your choices, then it's not going to be a challenge, it's just going to be a slog. If on a normal difficulty it takes me 20 minutes to do something, and then on hard it takes me 50 minutes, yes, it's going to take me longer, but is it really going to be all that challenging? But we are getting closer to talking about difficulty, and that's, again, another topic. Again, with positive choices, the best ways to avoid this is to build choices either as side grades, as in a choice that makes you better in one aspect but weaker in the other, or make choices that simply enhance aspects without basically making things super better or making it always better. As an example from Payday 2, what they did was they took a lot of the passives that were just flat out bonuses and folded them into the perk deck system. So the things that raise your ammo capacity, damage, headshot multiplier, etc., which are always good, you're never not going to want them, they're now a part of each of the perk decks. And it doesn't matter which perk deck you level up, you will always get those bonuses. Now, when it comes to minimizing the impact of passives or choices, that is game dependent. Like I said, every choice should have a utility. Some of the best ways of designing choices around this is to design them around, I guess what you could say, different play styles. Let's say I want to be a tanky, rush into the middle of the group and just, absorb the damage and deal with enemies in close range. You could have skills that emphasize those specific tactics. If I wanted to be a sniper or a machine gunner, these skills wouldn't help me. I don't want to be up close if I'm using a rifle. Likewise, I'm not going to need to use, bonus accuracy when I'm 2 feet in front of a guy using a shotgun. Again, these are choices that allow players to personalize their builds or customize them without one always being the best option. It could be the best option for that specific playstyle, but you're still giving the players enough variability and options elsewhere. And again, with Payday 2, they've been trying to do that. And again, it's very interesting, bro. I would love to talk to the designers about that. With the updates to the skill trees, you have different trees essentially designed around different playstyles. The technicians, I'm going to, of course, embarrass myself. I'll blame it on the migraine, that I don't remember the names of the skill trees, but you have one skill tree that's designed all around SMG use, including a skill that lets you do headshot damage when you hit the enemy in the chest. You have another skilled tree gunslinger that is all about pistol bonuses. Another one that's all about shotgun bonuses, and you get the picture. Again, if I take all the bonuses for the pistol, it's not going to help me with the shotgun, but that's the point. I'm not using a shotgun. If I take the sniper rifle, I get the rifle bonuses, and again, you're not making a choice that's always the best. You're making them best for specific circumstances, and that's when good choice design works. But we're approaching 15 minutes. My head's starting to feel a little dizzy, so we're going to wrap it up here. Again, just to end things and recap, avoid false choices whenever possible. Either give choices that are good, at least at some point. Again, every choice should have a utility at some capacity in your game. If something is so good that everyone is taking it every time, then be sure to look at that, just in the same regard as if everyone's avoiding one skill all the time. Again, as a game designer, it's up to you to figure out exactly how you want to balance your game and how to avoid these situations if they come up. But it's time to say goodbye. I gotta do some resting for tonight. Once again, thank you to 798 subscribers here on YouTube. Hopefully we can hit 800 and we will have another Let's Play vote. If you've been enjoying the content here, be sure to check out the written content on GameWisdom.com. And if you'd like to support things, check out our Patreon campaign. Early bird pricing for our rewards is going to last until the end of October, so be sure to get them in if you would like to support us, but get a little discount as well. Once again, I'm Josh Bycer from Game Wisdom. Thanks for watching today's Critical Thought, and I will see you tomorrow, hopefully with a clearer head and more great content. Take care. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel, and of course share with your friends. It always helps out. For daily posts on all manner of game design and industry topics, check out game-wisdom.com. To support the site and everything that I do, be sure to check out the Patreon campaign. If we can hit goals, it will mean more content for everyone to enjoy, and I'll be able to support myself and my household. If you want to follow me, you can find me on Twitter at GWBycer for updates throughout the day and random thoughts from me. And lastly, you can find me on Twitch right over there at GWBycer for daily streams most nights around 10 Eastern. Thanks again for watching the video, and be sure to check out more great content coming to the Game Wisdom channel real soon.